Can you tell me about your background and how you got into digital sales from the beginning?
Yeah, so I started out in the industry 10 years ago.
Okay.
And essentially I was working for other companies in college. I was looking for work that would help me grow as a person, where I could learn different things, communication, sales, all kind of wrapped into one, and have some flexibility with my time. Really, the only job out there that was possible for me to do something like that was, bartending or serving, and that really just didn't interest me. I wanted to do something different. So that's how I got into marketing during college. Then after college, I continued to do it just because I found out that I was pretty good at it. And then the more I learned about it, I'm like, wow, this is like a really good career path. And it's only been blowing up since the pandemic. And I was way before the pandemic.
Okay.
So then I got to a point where I started accumulating my own network and my own following. I grew, to thousands and thousands of followers and things like that. And I had people who came to me consistently and they wanted help. They saw that I was growing my pages, and even through small little tidbits of advice, other people were growing theirs too. So then it started to occur to me it might be a good time to start thinking about owning a business. And I don't know, it was kind of like the universe heard me put that out there, because then left and right people were calling me up. Oh, don't you own a marketing company? Aren't you the one with the marketing company? And that was before I thought about the business.
Yeah.
So then, one thing leads to another. I come out with my business. Then the places I had under contract either closed down, or they decided to kind of completely change things and push everything overseas. So, I would have been in a position where I would have had to have maybe gone into another career path anyway, or done something completely different. So it was a great decision for me. And then, 5 years later, here we are.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like where you got, honestly, it's great. Okay, next question. What do you think are the most important skills for success in digital sales?
The most important things related to success in digital sales. Okay. So that could be anything, not just necessarily social media, right?
Yeah.
So the most way to be successful in sales, I think, is to just to help people. You know what I mean? Like really get in their shoes, to understand their problems, and a lot of things are going to fall into place. I think too often people are just focused on, hitting certain bullet points or treating everything like it's a script, and they forget these are people who need our help first and foremost. And if you could put yourself in their position and empathize with them, you're much better off than if you're somebody who doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like my number one thing, is really to kind of treat sales differently, not like you're there to sell the person,
Of
but you're
course.
there to solve a problem. And a
Yeah.
lot of things will come into place if you do that.
Yeah, when you understand like what people need. Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. And you want to be the one to solve their problems.
Yeah. Correct. Okay. What are some of the biggest challenges you face as a digital sales owner?
That's a good question. So I think, I mean, what's the hardest thing? It would be hard. It would be difficult to say, but I would say, like, what is a struggle sometimes even now would be the rejection part of it for me, if I'm being completely honest. And if you're listening to this and you're new to sales, like, understand it's something that, even I struggle with, and that's normal. Not because I don't like hearing no, but because I know if they're not working with us, the alternative is typically companies who are not doing the things that we're saying,
Yeah.
companies who are not, trying to solve a problem. They're not trying to help people. It is really kind of more about the dollars and cents,
Yeah.
so I know if they're going to someone else, that they're not going to have the kind of care and treatment that we would give them, Or if they try to do it on their own, they're going to waste so much time before figuring it out, because it's not like here in the course of 5 years from day one to now, I had the same level of skill, everything went great. I had to learn, I had to fall my behind a lot to get to where I am now. And all of that time spent, your average person would not necessarily be able to spend 80 hours a week for 5 years
Yeah.
to do what I'm doing. And sure, there are people who can pick things up quicker, but you have to put quite a lot of time into it. And if you don't have anybody directing you, that puts these people in a really bad position. And we've seen companies close their doors maybe weeks or months after we had a conversation. So it's disheartening for that reason, because like you really want to help them, and sometimes they're at that point where the business would be lost otherwise. But ultimately, we make our own decisions in life. They have to be ready for something like this, because it's not just an investment, it's a change. It now says I'm taking my business more seriously. I'm hiring a team. I'm going to the next level. It becomes real.
Yeah.
Kind of like if you're getting married and then you go and you get the wedding dress, like all of a sudden it probably becomes real to you then, because you have this thing that's like only what you would do in that situation. So I think for just some people, they just have a lot of mental blocks. So the rejection part, that's why that bothers me, because I'm like, I know what's on the other side of it, but I try to break through to them. And sometimes they do come back. Sometimes they do come back months or even years later and say, hey, I made a mistake. Like I didn't advertise the way you were talking or at all. But I'm ready now. Like I had to learn the hard way, but I learned. And sometimes that's what people need.
Yeah, exactly. Realization.
Let them be free to make mistakes sometimes. And that's not saying I'm the only one who can do this. I'm talking about more of the scenario where, they go and they end up doing it themselves or something, or they just hire somebody who's brand new to the industry.
Yeah.
Which everybody's got to start somewhere. But if you're in a situation where it's very important you make sales and your business could be tanking, you have to trust an expert to do it.
Yeah, and it takes a lot to trust someone you don't know. So
that trust building is very important. I would say that's besides solving problems and answering questions and being the one that alleviates their stress, like all that is really important. Yeah. But also you have to talk about skill versus not having these skills.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like, okay, so what if somebody's going to charge you half the price if they just started their career and they're going to learn on your dime? So it's half as cheap, but it has a fifth of the value, right? Yeah. Because you pay for experience. And why? Because that experience mitigates risk, if that makes sense.
No, that's true.
That's exactly why you do it. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
One of them.
Can you describe like a project you worked on that you're most proud of, like from the past? Something that like you look back at and you're like, oh wow, I did this.
Yeah. I can probably share screens and show it to you.
Yeah.
So I got into home related businesses. I would say like maybe about 2.5 years into that 5-year journey mark that we're at right now. And when I got into home related businesses, it became clear there's like a lot of connective tissue as far as that goes, like between different industries. And pressure washing and soft washing was a good niche inside of the home related businesses. And we've done pest control and we've done lawn care and things like that too. But this website is one of the things that I'm most proud of, because this client allowed us to basically have the reins to do what we wanted, like to an extent, right? We had a lot of creative freedom. We had almost unlimited freedom in terms of the strategy when it came to the digital marketing. And he wanted a very large, robust website. The idea is that some of these pages also act like a little bit of a click funnel. So when you go to each of them, that it has general information and also a way to call and contact right away. So if Google brings you here because you're looking for roof cleaning, you can still set up an appointment. It's very functional, but it's very friendly to Google. And this basically is very similar to the reading material that his company gives him. It's a franchise. The franchise is not all under this name. It's under a different name. They're allowed to have their own names, but a lot of the stuff is the same. They had to have the same print material of certain colors, certain texts in it. So we had guidelines we had to fulfill. And we used that, we translated it to the website, and we made it compliant with Google, but still aesthetically pleasing. So it was a lot. He's got a chatbot integration there as well, which that hooks up to Facebook and everything. So there was a lot going on with this site. And when we first started, the original site was basically a landing page. It was very basic. And then it became clear while things were moving and sales were coming in, he wanted to do he wanted to hit the upgrade button, a pretty big upgrade. And since we've been doing that, if you look at most of the searches in his area, he ranks up pretty high. So this certainly helped with things. And besides that, we do a lot of work on Facebook for him, YouTube, Twitter, things like that. And there's some other social channels that we're getting ready to put him on too. So this is has been a massive project. It's not like we're just handling one part. So this is definitely something I'm proud of. So if we go to his YouTube channel, you'll see that like some of his videos are on par with ours in terms of the amount of views. He's doing very well. But this is a cleaning company, right? So you would think like a cleaning company, they're not going to find clients online. Well, what this is partially a virtual brochure. Like, what are our steps? How do we do roof cleaning? How do we operate? What are the benefits of whatever service? What's the services we offer? All those things are always going to be relevant. And all of these videos are connected to his website. So if you go to different pages on his website, it's embedded there. So when you look at it, it gives you YouTube views. Then you go to YouTube later and they say, oh, you like these videos by Immaculate Soft Wash. Look at these. And before you know it, people are binging his content. And now in just a couple of months, he's at 136 subscribers and we're only doing a couple posts a month. There's not a lot of videos that we're doing, but we're staying consistent. And now we're seeing more. So now we're going to end up doing maybe even a video a week. But right now we want to do maybe 2 a month, or 2 or 3 a month instead of 1 or 2 a month. And we've been progressively trying to tailor our strategy. And you'll see that even in the thumbnails. See the thumbnails, like they were okay. They could have been better. And then we did some adapting and now boom, and all of these that you see here that have the thousands of views, we also turn that into an ad campaign. So everything connects. There's a lot of moving pieces and there's been a lot of work that goes into building this content. But I would say like overall, because of the scope of what he's doing and the kind of work he has, because it's all very high-end clientele, very large houses like mansions and things like that. Overall, I would say is one of the things that I'm most proud of for sure.
Very nice. Yeah, it looks very like practical and like people love like finding something very easily. Makes things easier for them.
It's practical and it's professional, and in the text we're trying to think about it in different ways, like what are people searching for? Again, what problems do they want to solve? It's not just when we're in the process of trying to get somebody to sign up. We want to answer questions from our audience too.
Of course.
This is what we're doing in these posts, and we're continuing to adapt it. There are new things that we're trying, like as we go along, we're utilizing different tactics with the keywords and the thumbnails, like I was saying, and it's all part of the optimization process with him. And so far it's been really good. So this is something that we could do for clients in our area. They don't have to be cleaning businesses, but this works very well for cleaning businesses, obviously home related businesses, things like that. And we can definitely tailor that locally. So that's always a question, because YouTube, lots of people all over the world are on YouTube. We use ads so we could target people in the area.
Okay.
So everyone, so the 3,000 people that saw this video are all in Central Florida.
Okay.
That's another thing to keep in mind. It's not just enough to solve problems for people if you can't service them because they're outside of your area. If you have an online business and you could do that, fine, doesn't matter. But if you have to be localized, like he has a territory and a franchise owner and other people that you are not supposed to overlap, that is super important. And that's another way that a lot of other companies fail. They are not targeting the correct areas because they either forget or it gets difficult to manage all of this.
Yeah, of course. And you can have the right audience for it, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to have a one-way conversation with someone and then, you sell them on the idea, they look at it and then they go, oh, wait a minute, I'm in Georgia. This person in Florida can't service me. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, perfect. 2 more questions. I'm sorry, it's too many questions.
No, you're good. You're good. I have a little bit of time, yeah.
Okay. What advice do you have for someone who's like interested in pursuing career in digital sales?
Okay. Well, if you're trying to get into digital sales, one thing that you have to keep in mind is it's a numbers game, right? It's a big time numbers game, and it's not going to happen overnight.
Definitely.
It's so easy to get frustrated or get down. Like even me, like I was saying, sometimes I do get, a little frustrated, with hearing no and stuff, but that's a part of it. And that's something that I accept those feelings and I deal with them. I don't let it overcome me, if that makes sense. So that's something to keep in mind. Like it's normal to feel stressed out. It's normal to feel like you're not having a good day and you want to give up. Like that's life.
Yeah.
But as long as you don't do it and you stick with it and you are consistent, you will make money at this. Now you'll get to a point where you're kind of consistently making a certain amount of money, and then you have to make that decision. Do I quit my regular job? Do I invest more into the business so I could make more? All that stuff you can worry about later. When you're starting out, it's building that foundation. Be consistent.
Okay.
Don't give up. And remember, it's a numbers game. Contact as many people as you possibly can. And don't take time off other than what you need realistically to rest and recoup. Don't go through weeks without prospecting or anything like that. And the days that you do prospect, make sure that you are reaching out to dozens and dozens of people.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
For sure.
Last question. How has the digital marketing landscape changed during your career, and how have you adapted to those changes? Like ever since you started and now, do you feel like the environment is different and the like techniques you use are different?
Yeah, well, when we started, that was before the pandemic. So like it changed a lot of things for a lot of people, us included. So the way that we go about things is definitely different. Before the pandemic, there was a lot of trying to convince people that social media was a good thing to do, even though like to me and other people I knew, especially in my field, it was just very obvious, right? Like you definitely need social media. Now we don't have those conversations. So that's something that changed for the better.
Yeah.
But also people are also very bitter because in the pandemic, a lot of people were coming up that were giving false promises and people were stuck in their homes and not in the right headspace. And they got scammed like a lot. So now people know you need digital marketing, but they're concerned reasonably when they first start to talk to us, even if they've had prior interactions of our content. there's a lot of uncertainty. I want to be sure. I need to vet you, and it's a process. It's not like they okay, I talked to you once and we're good. Like it has become more of a process for them to vet us, even though it's obvious, like what they need to know is right there in front of their face. They want to be sure they're not going to get scammed, because it's just so much of a big thing after the pandemic.
Yeah, of course.
It's unfortunate. There's a lot of people struggling, and then they do that to try to make money. Or not that it's necessarily a scam, but there are a lot of companies after the pandemic that are like selling followers, like bots. Like, bots don't work. Bots are not going to give you anything, because they're not real people. They're not clients. It's vanity. And those numbers mean nothing, because Facebook, Instagram, no matter the site, they'll catch on it's not a real person, or that something is suspicious. And not only will they remove most of those followers, and it might take time, but they usually do. Also, they'll red flag you because you're violating their terms and conditions. Anything that violates terms and conditions, we don't do.
Okay.
So, competing with those kinds of companies who say they could do that is a new thing for us. Usually I can get past that pretty quickly, because somebody who's selling a bot is not going to have the kind of conversations we do, because they don't understand marketing strategy. They just think, okay, you pay for follow, you give me money and I'll give you followers. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But that is something that didn't come up before. Now it does.
Yeah.
But you have to be ready for that, and come up with a process, or a script. And a script doesn't mean like, oh, you read it like, verbatim. Put some notes there. When somebody asks you about a bot, how should you typically respond? Put some notes there, so you make sure that you say similar things, so it's your speech pattern is consistent, and you make sure that you're giving them value and you're talking about the stuff that's important about that topic.
Yeah.
But don't like read it verbatim.
Okay.
So I hope that helps too. And you'll hear things frequently that comes up the more you do those meetings, and that's going to save you a lot of time. So you're not thinking like, oh, okay, how do I answer this? You have it on the side. And as soon as they bring up a topic you're not sure how to answer, you can kind of casually, control search, look it up, and then you have that ready to respond to them. You got to think quick on your feet, and whatever's going to help you, do it.
Okay. I agree. Yeah. That makes sense. Oh, okay, perfect. These were all the questions. Thank you so much for answering them. It was interesting.